Alright, welcome to another edition of Canadian Corner. This is a Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, so I apologize if I'm a bit slow. Had a big dinner last night, bit of a turkey hangover, so we'll see how this one goes. I am solo casting this. My name is Liddell. I'm the main caster for Canadian Corner. No co-caster today. Gonna see if the stream of my own consciousness isn't acceptable over the course of 3 different Heroes games, or maybe 2. This is a matchup between Beef Boys and Roomba Rotation. This is Season 10 NGS. This is Division A East. Actually, I'm not sure exactly when this game happened. I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago. And I actually don't know the outcome because I've forgotten it. So I can't really talk about the standings because that will probably clue me in on who won this game. But nonetheless, that way I'm watching it raw, which is good when you're doing a replay cast. We have... oh, I have the sides wrong. Well, that's going to be a problem. I'm going to have to quickly fix that in Soothsayer. Apparently, the hard files were... I read them wrong and got the sides incorrect. So let me quickly change that. While I do that, you can quickly go over the ban list. Beef Boys banned Braxis Holdout and Tomb of the Spider Queen. Kind of smaller maps, brawly maps. Well, meanwhile, Roomba Rotation banned out Hanamura, which I think is just everyone's least favorite map in existence, and Towers of Doom, which is been a popular map in Division A East this season. I know Regen Phoenix likes it a lot, and it's quite a scary map because it's the ultimate comeback map that you could be down to just your last shot. You could wipe the other team, take all the towers, and really roll the map the other way. And therefore, it's scary to teams because anything can happen, and it's kind of an unpredictable... you gotta have to win the early game, the mid game, and the late game. But at the same time, you could just win the late game and win, so it's kind of a weird combination of things. Alright, now I believe I have them on the right side. The bans are wrong now, but we just went over that, so that's fine. As I go to the gameplay screen here, we should kick in any moment. There we go. Let me play it here. On the side of Roomba Rotations, we have Hiva on the Raynor, we have Iron on the Uber, we have MJ Doom on the Ural, we have Idioms on the Imperius, and we have the Lazy Hydra on the Gul'dan. For the side of Beef Boys, we have Dazed on the Artanis, Root Beer Guy on the Zeratul, Durkadurk on the Anna, Smork Killer on the Hanzo, and finally Tribulation on the Diablo. Interesting team comps. We have the Zeratul, which is quite spicy for this map, considering it's kind of a... Zeratul puts you in a little bit of a hole early game because he doesn't really have a lot of value to team fights. He can wave clear alright though. Meanwhile, on the side of Roomba Rotations, we don't have a main tank, a traditional main tank. Instead, we're kind of a hybrid frontline of Ufa and Imperius. Quickly into the game, we see a swap coming out, a stun onto Root Beer Guy, and Zeratul falling quite quickly. His health bar is quite low early, and he doesn't really have the escapes or sustain that he builds through talents later into the game. So that was a quick pick for Roomba Rotations, and now they get into clearing quite quickly. Top lane we have a Artanis versus Ural matchup. I wouldn't say either here. I haven't covered that so far this game. Nothing really that surprising. Ace in the hole from Raynor, I guess, is a little surprising, although they do have a lot of stuns on the side of Roomba Rotations to build that damage off of. And scatter build from Hanzo, and we do have the stacking quest from Artanis, which is not insignificant, as that can be a factor late game. this 4v3, oh, it's 3v3 continues bottom as they will be missing mid soak on the side of Beef Boys. As Roomba Rotations is actually able to pick it up, committing 2 to the top 2 lanes for most of this match so far. Meanwhile, Roomba Rotations has mostly just been able to commit Urel with a couple rotations from Reyna up. We do see Smart Kill in a bit of a situation, but that situation solves itself as he jumps over a wall. You know, I think Hanzo's in a weird spot right now just because he does a good mix of sustain and burst damage, but it never quite seems enough to fully threaten the team when he's alone as the solo damage dealer. And most healers can heal it off, even Ufa, who has lower heal output. We do see a little move in by Zeratul. Not much damage being able to be put out onto Imperius, a quite tanky bruiser as far as bruisers go. And we do see the first objective going over for the side of Roomba Rotations as it pushes this bottom. I assume they want well and a bit of fort just to kind of make it easier to win this bottom fight more consistently as the game goes on with those wells being down. We also have a bruiser camp pushing top, and Artanis has pretty weak wave clear as far as wave clear is concerned for bruisers. And so he might have a bit of a tough time clearing this out. Zeratul, we saw him trapped in this little cove here, and there was really no hope for him getting out. Probably, I didn't quite see it, but I'm assuming he got kicked by the Dragon Knight into that area. I also wouldn't say they have a ton of great Dragon Knight burn, with Hanzo being the really only sustained damage and Zeratul not really offering much in that department. So actually they weren't able to burn the DK, and it got bottom fort, which is quite a lot of value for a first objective. But we also see a level lead for the side of Roomba Rotations, which is not insignificant. And it's going to allow them to bully out, bully Beef Boys and kind of steal a bunch of camps. And Beef Boys kind of has to just sit on it until they get their level 10s online. I'm going to quickly look at the level 10 talents. We see Horrify, no surprise there. We see Hyperion from Reyna, that's pretty typical. Divine Storm over Divine Shield. There's not really a great Divine Shield target, so the Divine Storm is going to really lock down the triple melee of Beef Boys. Ardent Defender is... yeah, all of this stuff is kind of on meta. I wouldn't say any of these ults were surprising to me. I'm going to leave this up just while Beef Boys will get their 10 shortly and start picking their talents. We see the Nano Boost probably onto the Hanzo from Ana. We see Void Prison, right? Yeah. From Zeratul, which is going to try and set up big Diablo combos with an APOC, I would assume. We see the Collector Blind. We see a huge stun coming out into Zeratul with the Divine Storm, and he could not click buttons, and therefore he died. Dragon Arrow to help set up combos. It actually misses as it threads the needle between everyone, as this is a 4v5 breaking down bottom. Laser Hydra getting low, but Hanzo falling to the combos and the focus of Roomba Rotations. Idiom's having to back out, taking tower damage. They are quite deep here, as Urel does get stunned. MJ Doom in a little trouble trying to get out. But they are able to finish off bottom keep, and that's a huge, massive structure advantage going on early for Roomba Rotations. And really, we're seeing 0 kills on the side of 0 kills on the side of Beef Boys, and that really is hampering Dave's ability to build up his quest. As we do see a nice stun coming out from Hiva, and that is a Dragon Knight coming out for Roomba Rotations. Second Dragon Knight in a very short period of time, as they try to take even larger structure lead. Artanis is with this Dragon Knight now, so there's a bit more burn, but it still looks like it's going to put a big chunk into fort, as Zeratul once again gets completely locked down with a stun combo from Iron. And really, he's gonna be dealing with that all game, as they just have a million stuns to kind of shut down any time he tries to flank onto the backline. They did get mid for it, and now they're going for the front wall on mid keep. It's, you know, they're getting good value every time they get Dragon Knight, and it's really showing in the level lead, as Beef Boys is just constantly on the back foot, trying to get any kind of, you know, XP equivalency back. Although they will see the same talent here briefly when they get level 13, so they may try to go for a burst fight, bit of a combo with the APOC Void Prison, but I just really don't see the damage either coming out or coming online anytime soon until Zeratul really gets some of his late game damage. But at that same time, he's been getting locked down, so I really don't see him really upping those numbers at all. If we look at the stats screen real quick, we see, yeah, Gul'dan obviously the most amount of damage, Silliness, and Zeratul having even less than Diablo. As we see a kind of bush gank potential here, but they kind of give up on that as they saw free top, realizing that they better just clear waves and get some value back. Yeah, so if I had a co-caster today, I would ask my co-caster at this point, you know, insert co-caster here, what can Beef Boys do differently to turn this game? And my answer would be do this, just run at them with the same talents here and hope something changes. As we start entering the fight, Rupiga very low, Dragonel misses, the fear is huge, forces Hanzo into the opposition team and gets wiped. The Void Prison coming near the end, maybe you would have liked to see that a bit earlier, as it is almost a full wipe, as Artanis will probably fall here as well. Diablo coming back up with no souls. This might be game? I'm going to call game here, GG, as Roomba really turned that one quickly, and they have a ton of siege damage coming out from their Gul'dan and their Reyna. We see game 1 taken by Roomba rotations in convincing fashion. 11 kills to 0, 16 to 13 talent level advantage. Just a stomp down. Once again, I don't really have the, because this is a replay cast, I don't really have access to the draft and how it went down, but you'd think the tons of stuns from Roomba rotations came out in response to a Zeratul, an expected Zeratul, also just locking down Diablo, which is really essential to stopping them from kind of him flipping and isolating targets. Let me just quickly bring up the map score screen, just so I can get the next replay set up. Just gonna have a stream of consciousness here, and I'm sorry if I'm less articulate because I'm trying to multitask. But so far this season, I've seen Roomba rotations really kind of commit to what made them successful in Division B last season, which was just pick these mean, stun-heavy combo comps, lock targets down, get kills, and then take aggressive pushes once you have those kills. And that's really what they've taken to A, and it's had mixed results, obviously because the level of quality of competition has gone up. But you know, they still show the potential to dominate certain maps when they get the right circumstances and really kind of push an early game lead. As I actually don't know who it was picked by. As I have to close out this replay and open up the new one. Beef Boys I've also seen execute quite well so far this season in certain games, but at the same time they kind of have the ability to look overwhelmed at times, and the ability to seem like they don't have a plan in draft and they just kind of pick characters in an interesting order, and I think that's where some of these tough losses comes from. But in the actual like how they play, I think that they have A level talent, A level like shot calling within games. But my analysis would be that they can look weak in the draft sometimes. Um, Maybe like they try to do a reactionary draft, but they don't quite read what the other team is doing quick enough. As I open game 2 here, don't quite know what map it's going to be. I will get that information to you when I can. Replay system in Heroes. I'm kind of doing it right now in the amateur way, in which I'm just straight up clicking on the file and launching Heroes through that, even though I should be adding them to my replay files and doing an official lobby, because it's probably just better that way. But you know, it's a lazy Thanksgiving day for this Canadian here. I think both of these teams probably have the ability to make playoffs. I think Roomba Rotations is fairly safe to make playoffs. Beat Boys is a bit more on the fringe, but they're on the upper fringe, and probably have a much better chance than teams like my team, Tiny Dancers, Tricky Gooses, Wholesome Halfwits. Looks like they're out of it at this point. So it's really a 4 or 5 team race for those last 1 or 2 playoff spots. So we'll see who makes it there. Tricky had a tough start to the season, but they've really started the game steam. Meanwhile, my team, I thought we were pretty good out of the gate, and now we are in shambles and have no idea what to do with our lives. As we go to game 2, we have we're going to Infernal Shrines, everyone's favorite map, as it is I think the most popular. It definitely was last season in my Division B. Okay. Let's quickly go over to the gameplay screen. On the side of Roomba Rotations. Okay, I'm confused. Alright, they are doing me dirty like this because they have now switched sides, which is very upsetting. And I was actually originally right about what sides they'd be on. So, you know what? I'm going to let them suffer for this confusion and not change it in my soothsayer. Alright, Idioms is on the Imperius again. MJ Doom once again on the UL. Quick kill onto Tribulation, who's on the Varian for the side of Beef Boys. The Lazy Hydra is on Deathwing. Hiva is on Kelfas. And another kill coming out onto Thrall. Quite a successful early start for the Roomba Rotations. Iron is on the white main. On the side of Beef Boys, we have Smart Killer on the grey main. We have Durkadurk on the Ooper. We have Tribulation on the Varian. Top, we have Dazed on the Thrall, and I can't quite get you the name of Medivh because he is a sneaky bird who does not have a name yet. Quick rotation, 5 people mid looking for a gank, but Room Rotation says, nah, we should just get some more soak. Once again, I would say Beef Boys went for a very late game team. Varian is very weak early, but he does get his turn. He does turn on at level 4. But he's kind of a low health, low mobility tank. Once he goes in, he's pretty much in. He's kind of like Diablo minus the same amount of CC and health pool. Durkadurk offering some burst reduction on the Upa, but low overall heal output and low sustain. And then Medivh's an interesting one. Obviously reduces burst. Although you could argue Ufa does the same thing. But they're kind of going for a blow-up comp between Thrall, Varian, and Greymane here as they go onto the Idioms, but Whitemane has excellent burst heals to kind of reduce the damage, or reduce the kind of ability for Beef Boys to pick. As we see 4 kills coming out early by Roomba Rotations as they show an impressive early game here. as they are able to take bottom and bottom camp, their own camp, and then wipe, almost wipe the side of Beef Boys, as this has turned into a full-on camp steal top here on the Bruisers. Varian does have his level 4 taunt now, so he has the ability to gank. But there's not a lot of gankable targets other than Kael'thas on the side of Roomba rotation, so that's going to be hard to secure kills. And we don't really have any percentage of health. We do have a bit on Thrall with his level 1 talent. What's it called? Rolling Thunder. But they're really waiting for Greymane to get Curse Bullet to really be able to burn that Deathwing properly. We're going to see some value bottom as Roomba is just trying to grab every camp on the map. We had an interrupt there. Pay no attention to that. Once again, they're trying to get some nice damage bottom, but they really don't have the burst right now to kind of force Deathwing off. They're actually fully contesting this first objective as well, knowing that level 7s would turn on mid objective, and they probably couldn't win that. So they're just trying to get some bottom value, which is never a bad play considering the first Punisher is usually quite weak on this map. The first objective is coming up now for the side of Roomba rotations. They do have a camp pushing with it, so we'll see how much damage it does. I like the burn on the side of Beef Boys of this Punisher, but at the same time it's not ranged burn, so it is kind of risky, as you will be taking a lot of damage in clearing it. We see a big stun coming onto Greymane, but we do have the Protect, which is going to be a useful factor throughout this game, kind of negating the ability of Roomba rotations to get the burst kills that they want. We're going to have a bit of a respite here, as Evasize is going to back off. But we actually did see the value of split pushing during first objective. We see Well still up and 3/4 of a health on mid fort. Meanwhile, almost half the fort fell bottom, and they lost Well. So even though there was a level loss due to all the deaths on the side of Beef Boys, we do see a slight structure advantage early, which is an interesting point, and maybe Roomba rotations would have liked to respawn bottom more, respecting the burn capabilities of Greymane and Thrall on that bottom fort. We see the utility of Medivh here, as I think that's really a really strong part of Medivh's game, especially into a team like Roomba rotations that's excellent at securing kills and getting picks. Medivh kind of shuts that down a lot, albeit sacrificing wave clear and a little bit of damage than other mages in the game. Alright, well, we're just kind of stalling here for next objective. There's a couple camps to do. Beef Boys are hovering, but they're not quite seeing an opportunity. Although they might see it onto Hiva here, as they dive in, but really don't have the damage follow-up. But they are burning the Deathwing quite handily here, as Daze is going to be forced to run out, pop Medallion. Root Beer guy is weak as well. But they do get the Deathwing and all of that. Deathwing actually is more burnable than usual, because the Lazy Hydra did go for the level 1 talent of Dragon Soul instead of the I would say more common, but not necessarily more common. I would say about 50-50 of the protected armor, which really reduces the ability to burn him down quickly. Sorry, water break there. We do have the level 10s coming online for the side of Roomba rotations. We see Angelic Armaments, Ardent Defender, Divine Reckoning, Phoenix, and Fear coming from the side of Roomba rotations. Nothing surprising there. You have so much burst reduction, and the Medivh has the Protect, that Pyroblast was never going to get any value. Plus, Pyroblast is a lot weaker in organized play, I would say. White main, that's the typical ult. That's just a burst reduction. Like you can, if you place it right on enough people, and Beef Boys does have a lot of melee, it has the ability to burst someone from 10% health to 90% health in the matter of seconds. And so it has a lot of value. As we see a nice stun coming onto Thrall, but we do see the Divine Shield, a huge stasis coming out on the side of Beef Boys as they chunk the Lazy Hydra's health. But the health bar just becoming too low on the side of Beef Boys as we see Uber drop, Thrall drop. Tribulations is going to get out, possibly, as Medivh got himself in a tricky situation and will fall, losing all of his quest progress. So that's a huge kill. The quest, once the quest turns on, it let me see here, what does it do? It increases the damage by 75 and reduces the cooldown by 1 second for hitting a hero. So quite significant considering Medivh already struggles damage-wise. As we see the second Punisher coming out for the side of Roomba rotations with a bottom camp as well. We saw the Divine Shield by Ufa pop there. That's an interesting ult. I think it's a smart choice with the Grey Mane, allowing him to just go ham on the other team's backline with 0 worries about health. We see the Cursed Bullet, no surprise there for the Deathwing. Keyline Seal, which is the ability to stasis and freeze the enemy team for a long period of time. We see Shield Wall, no surprise there, anti-burst into this bursty Roomba rotations team. And then lastly we see Earthquake, which I think it's interesting. Obviously it doesn't affect the Deathwing, but it affects the other team as they want to run into them, and the slows will help with that. But at the same time, I think Earthquake, Sunder would have had a lot of value as well, interrupting the White Mane, possibly stopping her heals for a little while. Not much happening with that bottom objective. Taking bottom fort, which is expected, not too flashy, as they do get some more damage into mid fort here, as we see the structure advantage starting to turn online for Roomba rotations. And taking kind of a less convincing lead than game 1, but still a convincing lead in 6 kills to 1. Taunt coming out onto UL, but she's able to pop her ult and gets out unscathed. Well, it should be noted there's a very long ult timer, 2 minutes, as we do see Roomba rotation pushing in and able to secure mid fort. Without really suffering much. They popped all their ults, but so did everyone on the side of Beef Boys. So that's obviously a trade you make every day of the week, as Beef Boys really just needs to get an equal level, because they've been behind levels this entire series so far. And obviously the picks they've given up early have not helped with that. Roomba rotations, I think for any team facing them, they need to be aware of the early game. Roomba rotations is always going to look for that pick, that early advantage, and looking to roll you for the rest of the game. You need to deny them those fights, deny them the ability to get an XP advantage, which can be hard to do because it's very tempting to get sucked into their want for a team fight. But they almost always pick early game teams for that reason. As we do see a kind of dive onto Beef Boys. They're trying to get value top. Tribulation's getting weak, able to get out through the portal. As we do see Smart Killer getting a lot of damage on the Deathwing, and Deathwing needs to be afraid of the other team now. Triple stun and a white, oh my god, a White Mane ult, finishing off 3 members of Beef Boys, as it looked like they had gotten the advantage with the Deathwing kill, but I mean, the amount of AoE damage Hyba's putting out just was... They cannot keep up heal-wise, they cannot keep up damage-wise. And we do see a full-on talent advantage for Roomba rotations now. They will be getting a Bruiser camp just before objective pops. MJ Doom sneaking down, taking bottom camp as well, which will be already pushing a already pushed out bottom lane here, in which the bottom keep has taken significant damage, and they're going to have to clear that out. if I'm Beef Boys here, I give this objective. I try to push the bottom 2 lanes out and really get hopefully 16 turned on to be able to respond and protect this top keep here. At that point, you'd be down all your forts, which is not the end of the world. I always say you haven't lost the game until you lost the keep, which is obvious, but I really don't think any team is too far gone in a game until they've lost the keep. And then the other team can play a chicken shit style of game where they just avoid fighting and could win through just macro objective presence. But with that said, losing your forts, not the biggest deal in the world. It just puts you on the back foot XP wise. They are going bottom here to secure this bottom fort. So if they end up defending this keep, which looks less likely now as top wall is falling for them, it means they're probably going to lose this keep. But if you just add up the structures numerically, they will be going 1 for 1 on this. Although no, they did lose top fort as well. So it's a 2 for 1. But you were able to get level 16. Hopefully you clear this, Roomba rotation overextends, and they wipe them if you're Beef Boys. But that's a lot of ifs and buts, candies and nuts. So really we just have to kind of gauge what happens here. But this is Roomba rotation's game to lose, as we do see a sneaky rotate coming out from the side of Beef Boys, trying to get in behind this Punisher and wipe the opposing team as they try to get onto this Kael'thas here. The White Mane does get her ult off, but the healing is stopped by the keyline seal. As this is a huge brawl, White Mane low, but everyone else is low as well, as we see a 2 for 1. Hive quite low. Tribulation's getting quite low as well and will fall here, as they were able to finish off a couple of targets, but really it was an unsuccessful gank overall, as Root Big Guy is the lone survivor of his team. Do I call it GG here? We have a half health Punisher on top keep, finishing off that keep, and now on core. You know, I would say not a ton of siege damage on the side and no healer on the side of Roomba rotations, but we do see another 10 seconds of just a lone survivor Medivh who does not have burn for this Punisher. We see the shields gone on the keep, but you know the core is falling quite quickly. But Roomba rotations calls it a day, figures the only way Beef Boys gets back into this game is through feeding them kills, and they do have the strong potential of finishing off kills, as we do see Deathwing falling there to the Greymane, trying to fly but not able to get up in time, as Idioms falls as well. They ended up falling anyways on their retreat, so you wonder if it was smarter just to dive core till death and have an earlier death timer and more core damage. But you know, I said they should have gotten out, so I'm being a lucky revisionist historian here. As we see a dive onto this camp, as we try to get a stagger kill, and Hiva falls to Beef Boys. Beef Boys knowing what they have to do, keep the staggers up, keep Roomba on the back foot. Meanwhile, being able to commit Thrall to soaking, getting level 20, while the 4-man here hard pushes and looks to secure kills. Right now, what Roomba needs to do is needs to stabilize, realize that Beef Boys can get some good value here, but it's not the end of the world. You still have a huge structure advantage and a very weak core that you can dive later. See, just kind of a posturing here. If I'm Beef Boys, I would like to back off and secure these forts to relieve lane pressure, but they're really looking for a keep here so that they can secure a win condition, that if they wipe Roomba rotations, they can win through a lane. But I always prefer the kind of macro to take on games rather than the big play potential of just wiping and ending the game. But that's just me, as we see level 20s coming online for Roomba rotations. Quickly look at those talents there. We see the range on the flame strike. We see up upgrade the Judgment Day, which sucks people in a little bit more. Heavenly Host, which is a shield for everyone, so Imp trying to give out some kind of shields and support for the rest of his team that's getting died, because he's not the primary target. And on the side of Beef Boys, we see Redemption, so a free res for Ufa if he dies. We see splash damage on human attack targets. We see Medivh cheats by being able to redirect his ult. Healing upgrade for Varian and all other heals, which is kind of much needed to boost up Ufa's healing. And we see Earthen Shields, which is a shield on Thrall's Earthquake when you stand in it over time. Put this away quickly, as this will probably be the last team fight of the game unless Beef Boys is able to win it. Huge keyline coming out, isolating the team, but they're not able to get a ton of damage on the targets they need to, as Whitemane drops her ult, tons of damage coming out, just chaos everywhere. I can barely see names at this point. As we do see the soul kill so far coming out onto Kalphas, as they are able to secure a kill, albeit losing a lot of health, and we'll see if Roomba Rotations moves in here and is able to kind of turn this game in the only way I said they could, which was securing kills, team fighting like crazy, and really maximizing whatever advantage they can get. And Roomba Rotations, I think they should realize now that these fights aren't necessarily going their way every time, and they need to be a bit more careful about how they pick the fights, and they can't just run in and engage the team every time and expect to win. I'd like to see maybe more cheeky plays to challenge bottom keep here, kind of keep Beef Boys guessing whether they're going to dive core or not, and you know. And we do see a 5-man push here. I wonder if the Beef Boys are saying this is our chance of getting a win, as bottom keep is quite weak, so they're kind of committing that and hoping they can get a win here, as Kalphas is now back up and able to get much needed damage onto the Punisher. We see a very ballsy attempt by Beef Boys to dive in, under keep and secure kills. It does not come out in their favor, as 2 fall. Ufa will be coming back alive here, but is full on chase mode as Dazed falls as well. Oof. That was a risky call, and it's probably going to cost them the game here and the series. But, you know, gotta give credit where it's due. They thought that was their one chance to win, and they took a Hail Mary swipe at it. Hydra just on core here, not worrying much about his own health, as Hydra is able to kind of just sit on core here. Ufa falling, as it is GG as the catapults come out onto the core of Beef Boys. We see a 2-0 victory for Roomba Rotations, taking the series in the domination in quite convincing fashion. It got a little sketchy at the end there, game 2, but I would say Roomba Rotations had a full control of the game almost at every point, and we're never really in that much threat of losing. As I quickly go to the stat screen, by damage, we have a ton of damage from Imperius, which makes sense because he's in the middle of it all, and that's exactly where Beef Boys was. I'm gonna wrap this up kind of quickly here, because I'm fading a little bit. Talking for an hour straight has definitely worn on me. Yeah, we have quite a convincing win. I think Roomba Rotations has shown once again what their bread and butter is, and that's early picks and comboing off of multiple CC chains. And they execute that very well. Meanwhile, Beef Boys, I like some of the things they're doing in these games. I like their ability to make ballsy calls, understand how they can get back into a game and show that they're never fully out of it. But at the same time, they seem to still suffer in their team construction and not really have much of a macro presence in these games, focusing more on what their combo is alt-wise and less on what their in-between team fights team comp looks like. And I think that's suffering. That's leading to them suffering a little bit. I don't know how. I know they're new to NGS. I don't know how new as a team they are, and what role scouting plays and all of that. But I think definitely skill and team fight wise, I've definitely seen enough for them to do well in A. It's just, can they pick up the other parts of that game? Meanwhile, Roomba Rotations knows what they are, and they try to execute it highly. Anyways, I'm gonna end this stream now. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this was useful for some people trying to scout these two teams out there. Hope this was an adequate cast from me. I haven't solo casted in quite a while. It's quite a daunting experience. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'm planning to get a lot of casts out next week. So hopefully people can join me for that as well. Thanks for joining me. This has been Liddell on Canadian Corner, NGS Season 10, Roomba Rotations versus Beef Boys, taking a 2-0 domination. Hope to see you next time.